What's up, Faction? My name's Pete Dupuy, and I'm the Vice President and Co-founder of Cressy Sports Performance. Your fearless Strength Faction leaders have been kind enough to task me with the responsibility of providing weekly fitness business insights in a video format, and this is going to be our first go at it. Before I get started, I want to give you a feel for my backstory so that you can understand why I have some level of credibility in discussing this stuff. And as I mentioned before, I founded CSP back in 2007 alongside Eric Cressy and Tony Gentilcore. But before that point in time, I actually got an undergraduate business degree at Babson College, which is just outside of Boston, Massachusetts. I spent close to 3 full years working for a publicly traded company in their marketing department. I was a marketing manager, and I started to develop an appreciation for stuff like brand management and understanding how to allocate marketing dollars and work with teams and so on. And ultimately, I went back and I got my MBA, and it coincided very nicely with a period of time when Eric Cressy was in a position to start his own gym, and he approached me just about a month after I graduated, and we discussed the possibility of creating what is now known as Cressy Sports Performance, and we ran with it. I can tell you that I still very much consider myself to be an outsider of sorts in the fitness industry, mostly because despite the fact that I sell fitness instruction, I've never actually instructed fitness, and I think it's kind of helpful to have a little bit more of a business-minded perspective on this stuff. And I'm really excited to share some of these concepts with you. So this first week, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about selling tools that you can use. Because Todd said that many of you in your intakes mentioned you were uncomfortable with the process of pitching yourself. So let's get started with 5 quick tips that you guys can implement today to get started. So my first piece of advice for you today is to stop focusing on selling large packages with bulk discounts and start emphasizing purely getting people through the door for day one. So don't sell 20 sessions when you can be focusing on the cost of an initial assessment. And my rationale for this concept is that I constantly encounter fitness professionals who say that they're confident they can convert any lead that they get through the door if they just get the opportunity to demonstrate how effective they are at assessment strategy or how great their training environment is. But the problem is they are counterproductively hurting themselves by pitching the biggest dollar values instead of telling people you just got to come in and experience it. And here at CSP, we are absolutely a price leader. We're expensive in relation to our competition. And the thing to remember is that we're not particularly expensive for that first visit, which is just $99. So I concern myself specifically with converting a lead for a $99 session, and I let my team do the rest of the selling. If I can get them through the door, I know that someone like Nancy Newell or a Frank Duffy of Strength Faction, they're going to convert a lot more business simply by showing a good training experience to clients than I would by telling someone you got to buy 16 sessions before they've even experienced what it feels like to walk through our doors and become part of the CSP family. So there's tip 1 for you. Go out, focus purely on getting people through the door for day one, be it in the form of a free consultation or a paid session the way we do it. All you got to do is get them to start. My next tip for you is to ask more questions. All too often, I think that fitness professionals get too tied up in executing a canned sales pitch from the moment they get someone in front of them, on their email, on the phone, whatever it may be. They're really not doing a great job of demonstrating an interest of the person that's sitting in front of them. So in my case, if a typical sales pitch runs 5 minutes long and I'm executing it over the phone or in person, I would say that roughly 3 minutes of it from the start are spent listening to that person speak. And it's simple questions. It's, how'd you hear about us? What inspired you to come through the door? What do you feel threatened by in the gym? What do you want to accomplish over the next couple of months training with us? I really just want to get them going because there's one thing we all know with certainty, and that is that people enjoy talking about themselves. And why not allow them to do so in your office or on the telephone? At the point that I've collected all the information I need to execute an effective pitch with them, that's when I roll into my canned pitch. So I say, all right, it sounds like we could do a great job helping you out. You've come to the right place. How about I walk you through the details of how our service works, and then you can ask any questions you have, and we'll see what sounds appropriate for you. At which point I execute the pitch. But the thing to keep in mind is that you will never come across somebody who says, that salesperson who demonstrated a deep interest in me and my backstory came across as really sleazy. So when in doubt, ask more questions. My third recommendation is to do everything you can to sell on your turf specifically. So what do I mean by this? Well, early on in my career here at CSP, I felt a little bit threatened by the idea of selling in person. And I can't say for sure why. It's probably just because I hadn't found my comfort zone yet. But I was missing a huge opportunity every time somebody called us or emailed and said, hey, I'd like to come down and see the place and ask a few questions. For me, I wanted to stay in my cozy little comfort zone and send off a canned response email or essentially read through a script over the telephone. But the opportunity I was missing was the chance to walk an athlete or their parents or a general fitness pop person into our space, past a bunch of framed jerseys, past a great training environment, and through a unit that I'm really proud of and I think can effectively sell itself before I even sit down in the office to talk dollars and cents and talk about the logistics of training with us. And it's proven to be immensely effective. So anytime I can get somebody to come through the door to hear about our services, I jump on it. And this doesn't mean that you need to have framed Major League jerseys on your wall or behind you. It could be as simple as selling on a particularly welcome and warm training environment. If that's what you want your gym to be known for, being a safe place for people or a third space, then sell on it. Bring people in so that they can see it, feel it, and experience it. Maybe you're someone who gets by with being the eccentric crowd, like Mark Fisher Fitness, and you want people to see it. Well, you can't truly understand a space like that until you've been inside of it. And no amount of selling on the phone with Michael Keeler or Mark or Brian Patrick Murphy or whoever it is going to make you actually understand how eccentric the space is and how uniquely inspiring it is. So when you have the chance, get people in your space and sell right there in your comfort zone on your turf. My fourth piece of advice is that you should identify your frequently asked questions and consider publishing some content answering them. In my case, early on in my career here, we discovered that a number of people were asking, what are you going to do to make my kid faster? When are they going to do their ladder drills? When are they going to learn about fast footwork? And I knew deep down that that didn't necessarily jive with our training philosophy, but I couldn't quite figure out how to articulate it. So I approached Eric and I said, hey, it would be really helpful to me if you could publish a blog discussing how we apply our training to make kids faster without saying that we want to bash ladder drills. So Eric wrote a blog with a tongue-in-cheek title called Make My Kid Run Faster. And I have probably sent that off via email to parents a couple hundred times over the years, explaining our rationale for that. And the reason this is great is because for some reason, the best and the worst thing about the internet is that anybody can publish anything. But when people see it in print, they see you as a specialist or some sort of expert. And in our case, I do believe in our expert status, so I'm happy to stand behind the content that we publish. And I believe that anyone in the faction has taken the time to learn their craft and talk about it. So it's nice to be able to cycle people back to material you've published, establish a little bit more credibility, and get them into your electronic network as well. My fifth and final tip for you is that you should never be afraid to say we're not a good fit. And this serves two purposes. First, sometimes your gut tells you that someone is just going to be more trouble than they're worth. And in my experience, they usually are. So if you feel like you want to say no, say no. Don't take on any clients who are going to cause problems in the long run or are going to be especially high maintenance, complicated for your staff to deal with, and so on. But the second reason why saying we're not a good fit can be particularly effective is that people don't like being told what they can't have. So if you are experiencing a particularly challenging sales pitch and they're asking difficult questions that are unnecessarily complicated and you're getting the impression that you're not going to please them with your answers, say it. Tell them you're ready to walk away. Offer to make a recommendation for a competitive service. And in 10 years of doing this, every time I have said we're probably not a good fit based on what I'm hearing, people say, wait. I'll decide for a good fit. I want to book the initial assessment. So if you want to use that reverse psychology, it tends to be particularly effective. So to recap, 5 quick tips to help you feel a little more comfortable as you execute your sales pitch. Number 1, stop trying to sell huge packages and start focusing on bringing people through the door. Number 2, when in doubt, ask more questions. My third tip, sell on your turf whenever possible. The fourth recommendation is that if you have a series of frequently asked questions, go out of your way to publish content that answers them so that you can put them on the radars of any current and future leads. And my fifth tip is to not be afraid to say no. Before I wrap, I want to tell you two things that I want you to be reminded of as you go in your next sales pitch, and everyone from here on out. Number one, you're already probably better at what you do than 99% of the fitness professionals out there. Nobody stumbles into the strength faction with an average or below average skill set. And oftentimes you just need to be reminded of how good you are at this to begin with, and then sell with a little bit of conviction. The second thing I want to remind you of is that these leads, assuming you didn't purchase a list, which is pretty rare in our industry, they came to you, they found you, they approached you wanting to be pitched, and you need to take advantage of that opportunity and not be afraid to upsell and not be afraid to sell with confidence. That's it for week one. I'm looking forward to coming back next week with more insights, probably answering a question or two from Billy Rom, and I'll see you guys next Thursday.